Prepare for yet another insane journey through the weirdest stories on Reddit. We're exploring some of the most bizarre areas of the internet. Gather some popcorn and come along for the ride. Remember to hit like and subscribe. Now let's get going. After I divorced my wife for cheating on me and telling me it was only for pleasure, she returned and begged for assistance. I went ahead and did this because we had been married for 12 years, having married at a young age for both of us. We dated for a little over a year, and during that time it felt perfect. Now, however, I'm not sure if I have a good job managing a profitable jewelry business that my brother and I established from the ground up. It can be difficult to work with family, but it's also incredibly profitable. However, since my wife created a charming cafe where patrons can purchase pastries, coffee, and read books, things have been great for us and we don't dispute too much. Her passion for books has always annoyed me. However, I ended up lending her support by helping with her cafe's rent. It's located in a posh area of town. This is where the real story starts. I can't recall the exact date, but I believe it was in March when she approached me to tell me about this new man that had appeared in the cafe. However, the business is doing well without worrying about rent, which made me happy. She said that I was a secure person and that he was really gorgeous. And I discovered that, without it being a major problem, the two of us are able to discuss someone's appearance objectively. She started talking about this person in a way that was unusual according to her. He seemed like the kind of macho hero she reads about and the kind of smut that women enjoy reading about. She's into those books too, those women who appear to be all about books, and I'll never understand it because it seems like the most corny kind of romance to make them feel something. She continued talking about this guy for a while before stopping. However, I have to acknowledge that the language she used to describe him was virtually exactly the same as when she described the chilly Russian hitman who got caught up in the apartment building laundry room by a woman. That's not something I made up, it's from a real book that she finds interesting. Well, that's all I had to say for today. However, she informed me that he visited the following day and they had a lengthy conversation. She said he was originally from Serbia and had previously worked as an auto dealer. However, he made the decision to travel to the US in quest of a better life. While it was taking him some time to get his bearings and get back on his feet, he was looking for jobs at local dealerships because it was his area of expertise. She usually tells me a lot about the people that come into her cafe. In 10 minutes or less, I discovered that he was tall, blonde, handsome, well-dressed, and clearly spoke with an accent. It also seemed that he enjoyed reading fantasy novels like The Lord of the Rings and adored works set in the American West. Thus, this was not an unusual occurrence. However, she was using really pretentious language once more, and it appeared as though she was fetishizing him until the point where he ceased to be interesting to her. At that point, she stopped. We had a lengthy conversation about him, but it was evident that he was still a frequent customer of her cafe. I felt much better about it since he didn't seem to be deserving of lengthy spills every night. Hell, I even saw a guy who matched the description when I stopped by her cafe one afternoon to offer her lunch. Admittedly, he was attractive, but I was positive it was him. Ivan was his name, she told me. This is where one night things start to go a little weird. She had a silly smile when she got home. I inquired as to what was wrong. Ivan had walked her home, she claimed, and they discussed literature a great deal. He asked her out on a date, but she informed him she couldn't go because she was married. She stated he genuinely apologized, grasped her hand, wished her a good night, and walked away. I questioned her about why she was grinning so much. She claimed that it was like something from a book, which really irritated me because it seemed like she was romanticizing our interactions. Ivan was a patron of her cafe, after all. They would have continued to communicate virtually every day regardless of my desire to appear uninterested. She also had the option to inform him that she was single once more. Even though I felt a certain way about it, I believed that it was just my feelings and that there was no need to discuss it. I needed to go forward. After a week or so, my wife returned home with a bouquet of flowers that she immediately put in a vase, which was when I finally realized that this wasn't the case. She said that Ivan had given it to her. Nothing noteworthy. He claimed to have purchased several fur coat workers. It was her birthday, and he now has a job. She was attempting to portray herself as a schoolgirl who didn't understand, so I felt my head start to heat up as she said that. He just thought it would be great to get me some, because he constantly notices how hard I'm working. When I questioned her directly if she could tell that Ian truly liked her, she replied that it was clear, particularly when he asked her out. However, she thought the flowers were just a friendly gesture, which confused me because, as a guy, you probably wouldn't get flowers for a girl who rejects you, even if it's just because she's married. As a friendly gesture, he was still attempting to get her attention, or perhaps he was attempting to do so now and removing all the romantic overtones. Either way, he was making easy progress, so at the time I knew he wasn't. I was also correct in that it was about to halt at any moment. My spouse returned home many days later than usual, nearly 2 hours late, without informing me that it wasn't the first time she had been late. I therefore gave her 2 calls, but before I could make a third call, she didn't respond. "You won't believe the evening I had," she added, appearing really excited when she arrived. She continued by saying that after showing Ivan the location of the museum, they ate a slice of American pizza, which he had never tasted before but had only ever seen in movies. They strolled, chatted, and consumed pizza. When I asked her if she was drawn to Ivan after she had done, she seemed astonished and upset and said that she was only attracted to me. Even though I didn't really care, she told me everything about it. She explained that she was merely attempting to be amiable to a stranger in a foreign land who had no family or friends around. All of this didn't really convince me. I therefore informed her up front that she needed to break up with Ivan. Yes, that led to a major altercation. She talked about how it was being insecure, how nothing was fair, how it should stop feeling threatened, and a bunch of other crap, which was unexpectedly predictable. I was furious. Though I was able to control my temper and stop myself from losing it, I stood my ground and told her to stop having any further contact with Ivan. It was reasonable for him to visit her cafe as he was a customer, but we weren't meant to go any further. I asked her to put herself in my shoes and consider what she would do if she were in my position. "I would understand," she said, "if a Serbian girl came to buy a bracelet and then decided to take her for a walk around the town and all that. However, I believe that's a lie that we all know. To cut a long story short, nobody is surprised that I slept on the couch. The good news is that Ivan and all of his drama have stopped being mentioned, which has improved my mental health once more, because I knew she would be engaging with him at her cafe. However, the extent of what could occur there was limited. I became very suspicious when I happened to walk into my wife's cafe one afternoon at random and neither of them was there. I couldn't have been certain that Ivan would have been there at that time either, so that didn't mean much. But it did mean much that she wasn't there because that was very unusual. I considered staying until she returned. And it seemed pretty sure that nothing was going on because she was heading back home at the regular time each night, which was good by me. Or inquiring as to her whereabouts from one of her workers. However, I chose not to let it bother me too much. It was only as I was crossing the street to get back into my car that I noticed her and Ian walking up the street with their arms crossed that I decided not to jump across and yell at her, or beat up the guy. However, I remained in the car and observed them drive off after they entered the cafe yesterday. And I've been finding it difficult to digest. I wanted to speak with her straight immediately. However, I believe that having knowledge of something the other person is unaware of can be powerful. It could even enable me to expose further lies after she returns home. I asked her about her day and she said it was pretty normal, not mentioning that she had gone somewhere with Ivan. This is why I'm here. Should I try to find out more information first, or should I confront her directly? I'm leaning toward finding out more information because I suspect something may be going on behind my back, and confronting her could sabotage my efforts to uncover the truth. What should I do? Update 1. Hi everyone, I'm the guy from the post with the Serbian guy and my wife for cafe. It took me a while to find the confidence, but I'm back with a very substantial update. Let's talk about it. I've never been the kind to laugh at the thought of looking through your partner's phone. But there came a time when I made the decision that I had to know the truth, no matter the cost. However, I understood that in this instance, I had to set aside my moral hesitations and just do it. I took advantage of the opportunity to do it as soon as I could, which was while she was sleeping. It was no surprise that she had Ivan in her messaging app, WhatsApp, and that they had been chatting a lot. I exported the entire conversation to a text file, which I sent from her phone to mine. Naturally, I deleted the evidence. I looked through her gallery and saw a few photos of them grinning together in public, but nothing else. Additional damning evidence. I forwarded those to my phone as well. Was removed. It took me roughly 5 minutes to complete that. After that, I returned her phone to its rightful place and completed all the reading on my phone, which made me feel less suspicious in case you woke up unexpectedly. Boy, did I see things that were so bizarre that I had to laugh. Below is a transcript of a portion of the chat that you might find interesting. Horrible that I did it. It happened after they had talked about a book that my wife had suggested to him. Rather than referring to my wife by her real name, let's call her Clarice, the way the key characters referred to us. Yes, I also had that thinking. The section where the mysterious guy and the artistic girl are split between him and her boyfriend, followed by a message and plenty of hot sex scene too, really reminds me of us. I think that having sex is generally a wonderful thing, but in your situation, Clarice is sending you giggle emojis. Indeed. And in my opinion, that's what makes it even more enjoyable and thrilling. It seems so incorrect. Although I've never cheated before, I don't think I regret it all that much. The excitement stems from the fact that it's incorrect. Yes. And I hope that this never ends. At 2 in the morning it drove me insane. I couldn't stay at the house, so I went for a walk instead. I thought I would act rationally. I estimated that I spent 5 hours strolling about the town. But it was just 3 a.m. when I returned. She was also still in her slumber. Do you know how it feels to discover that you are being unfaithfully cheated on, only to discover that your spouse is making fun of you and taking pleasure in carrying out all of the work behind your back? That's what really pushed me over the line, because she was practically taking advantage of my ignorance of the circumstances. If I cheated, it would still be forgiven when I returned. She remained in her sleep. I then reached for her phone and hopped to that particular moment in her chat with Ivan. I needed to be absolutely clear that there was no doctoring going on here, so I recorded it on her phone. It was obvious that Clarice thought she was living out one of her ridiculous novels, but it was abhorrent that I was forced to bear the brunt of it all. She is unaware that I am aware of this, but the divorce is imminent and there isn't really any alternative course of action. I also have to watch her fall. Ivan has to fall too, for my sake. I need both of them to hurt, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, and I require a painful update on what's been accomplished from them. And it was magnificent. This is the last chapter in the tale of the Serbian man Ivan. It is the book about his loving, betraying, and cheating wife Clarice. They had no idea that they ought to have been far more concerned about me than they were. Instead, they allowed me to skip over the tedious portions of the narrative until Clarice left for work one day. After that, we drove off. I went to work, had a great day, and by the end, there wasn't a single message or missed call from Clarice, which pleased me. I parked my Uber across the street and watched as the process server walked into the cafe and handed her the divorce papers in a very public manner. At least she knew that she had been made out and that pleading would not solve the problem. That was my perspective. Well, she returned that evening sobbing uncontrollably. Not that it's dripping from her nose. She appeared to be a complete mess. To be honest, I was a little saddened to see her in that state and put it down to the remnants of our love. However, it was short-lived as she continued to wonder what went wrong. And if it was about Ivan, I realized she was attempting to piece together the details without knowing how much I knew. After some deliberation, I decided to inform her that I had seen her going arm in arm with Ivan that day. I had been keeping it to myself, so I didn't say anything else. Abruptly, she became bold and began to call me names and beg half the time. Despite acknowledging that continuing to meet him was inappropriate, she insisted there was no cause for a divorce. However, nothing was occurring between them. I was also acting insecurely. I was being envious since it seemed like in the end she was unsure of whether to insult or gravel me. She left my residence after I instructed her to, which she did. That was the exciting part for me, the real divorce process. Since I am far wealthier than her, I stand to lose a great deal in a divorce, but I also have to pay a great deal more for quality legal representation, which is exactly what I did. I assure you all that hiring a qualified attorney is essential when going through a divorce. Worth it? Because after I expressed my concerns, I not only had numerous photos of the two of them, but I also had text messages that amply proved the infidelity. In addition, my amazing lawyer was able to identify transactions in her joint account that appeared to have been made specifically for Ivan. The car I purchased her was hers to keep. She didn't come out of the divorce empty-handed, so it made it easier to take what I took, so I didn't worry about that. This is my favorite part. Getting even with Ivan wasn't easy, but one day I tracked him as he left the cafe, calling out to him as I went around the corner and giving him a solid blow to the jaw that hurt like hell. However, I gave him a lip break and threw him to the ground. He had a surprised expression. It wasn't a street battle I was hoping for. However, it wasn't until the end of May that she sobbed over the phone to me and told me how much she needed to pay the cafe's rent. She begged, and she didn't have the money for it. However, before I hung up, I advised her to sell the car to raise the money for it. She had called multiple times that week. However, when she called to curse me out, I didn't answer, spoiler, and learned that she had sold the car. When she was at her lowest, I told her it was cruel to believe that cheating on me was enjoyable, and she claimed it was terrible that I wouldn't help her, and fascinating, she had nothing to say about it. If fortune favors me, I'll wait until next year to see how she handles her rent. I won't say the divorce, but she'll lose the cafe too, especially without access to my bookkeeper. It's been nice, to be honest. I'm a freshly single woman with a lot of money and satisfaction. Infidelity and betrayal hurt because they did, but you have to proceed.